Hi everyone, it's Roger here from What's on Disney Plus, and welcome to this week's live Q&A. So a big thank you and hello to everyone that joins either on the live stream or if you're watching afterwards. So this is something I do each and every week where I answer questions from the patrons and YouTube channel members. They've been able to submit them in advance. They're also going to be able to join in as well on the live chat if you're a YouTube channel member. Also, you can use the super chat function as well. Help out, all of which helps support the channel. But I also like to make sure that these are available to everyone to be able to watch. Also, we have a poll going on. If you're watching live, you can join in on that as well. So big hello and welcome. So we've got quite a few people already here in the live chat. So see Matt, Caleb, we've also got Keenan, Baba Trolling, Sosuna, Knoxwave. So big hello to all of you guys. Thank you very much for being members. So lots of questions and stuff today, a little bit all over the place. It's kind of a bit of an odd week for news and stuff, but let's just kick off with something a little bit interesting. So Matt asked, what characters do you think is going to be in Avengers Doomsday? So I'd also like, let me know in the live stream as well. Let me know in the comments, what characters do you think are going to be in there? So I did do a poll to kind of see which ones do you think should join. Miss Marvel, She-Hulk, Ironheart, and Wiccan. 73% think Miss Marvel. I think she might be much more likely. She was the one I thought out of the list that was going to be the most popular, but not as I didn't think she was going to be that popular, but that's good. So we've got Thunderbolts obviously coming up next in May. Then we're going to have Fantastic Four in July. Then next year's going to be Marvel's Doomsday, which is coming out in May. I have a feeling, my spider senses are tingling. I would not be at all surprised if that movie ends up dropping back to July. I mean, saying that they've just bumped back Spider-Man to July, so that might be against it. But the fact that they've not filmed either Doomsday or Spider-Man, they're supposed to be filming them in the coming months ahead here in the UK. I do wonder if they're going to end up delaying Doomsday till later in the year. I forgot about the fact that Spider-Man is coming out in July, so that's the better slot. Whether or not that they might move it back to December, I just feel like they might need a little bit longer for reshoots. Unless the only thing that might be against it is the fact that it does feel a little bit like Marvel is going all in on this movie, and they might just keep going until it's ready, because it's kind of, in some ways, because they've cut back how many movies they're releasing, how many shows they're making, it might be able to be a little bit more focused on just making sure that movie's better and do it. Then the following year, we've got Secret Wars. And I have a feeling that is all we are going to get. So, and then that will close off the multiverse saga. I think they have scrapped all their other films in between. I think they're going to do, that's it. It'll be like a two-parter. As Babak says, it'll be, I'm going to be filled at once, or filmed at once, or I feel like they're going to get pushed back. I think they're going to film them very close together. I think they have obviously been working on them for a while, but that is their prime concern. They will be working on it. And yeah, I think they're going to get, I don't think we're going to see any other movies released over the next 2-3 years other than the ones that they've kind of put out. I don't think we're going to get anything else. I think they're going to drastically cut back, get the multiverse saga out the way. I think last year showed with Deadpool and Wolverine, one movie in the year did really well. 3 this year is probably a little bit too much. Looking at some of your question answers, Kelly thinks it's going to be Fantastic Four, Thunderbolts, Doctor Doom, so that we know that. Captain America and Captain Marvel, that's how I'd do it. They're going to go with Sam and Carol being the official members of the new Avengers, while Torres and Kamala serve as support to the team, similar to how Sam supported Steve in Age of Ultron. Spider-Man will make an appearance, but won't be an official member of the team, since No Way Home gives a good explanation to why. Let's see what else here. Knoxway thinks Miss Marvel will definitely join the Avengers, which is an awful game. I thought that game was actually pretty good, actually. I quite enjoyed it. Quite a few comments here for Deadpool. I don't think Deadpool will be in there. I don't think he'll be in there. Babak thinks Fantastic Four, Deadpool, Wolverine, Thunderbolts, and Shang-Chi should all be in the Avengers movie. my guess as to why they aren't doing the Doomsday right away is because Brie, Tom, and Haley are doing stage shows in the UK. Disney's likely waiting for them to be free. It might be, but they could also, if they're already here in the UK, it's much easier for them to drop in and just do a couple of scenes and stuff and add it in later. Keenan thinks, I'm thinking 4 will be there for sure. 4 was part of the... I think 4's definitely in. Tough luck. Thank you very much for your super chat. Appreciate that. Appreciate your support. I most want Ryan Reynolds, Deadpool, and Doomsday since Disney owes him for saving Marvel Studios financially, and to see Deadpool team up with 4 and Disney to show they stand with him post Baloney Lively. I think the second part of it might... I think they might not want to do... I mean, I think it would be fantastic if Deadpool did a cameo. I think that's a possibility. I don't see Deadpool being one of the poster boys for Avengers. It's a family-friendly movie, but I wouldn't mind, if they just like thing. I think introducing Wolverine could be interesting. Wolverine definitely could be. But again, thank you for that support. That is really good. That is definitely what I think that would be really good. So I did up my list. So I've got Spider-Man. I think Spider-Man's a shoo-in. Whether or not he's an Avenger, I don't think it really matters too much. So I've gone for Spider-Man is definitely going to be in there. The new Captain America Sam. I think Hulk, definitely Hulk. I think Hulk, 4 and possibly also Hawkeye will need to be there in order to be like the original Avengers. They're going to need to pull some of those characters in. Fantastic Four, I think it's definitely we know that they're going to be in it, and that would make sense for them to be introduced and in the next movie, and then that kind of leads into it. I think Doctor Strange, he has to be involved somewhere. They're going to have to do something with him. Then I did say at the end of Guardians of the Galaxy that Star-Lord would return. I think this could be a good thing as well, bring him back as a solo character in Avengers. That could be an interesting way of, and again, we're having some big characters here that will draw the audience in. Miss Marvel is one I definitely think is another, if they're going to introduce a new character, a new younger Avenger, I think she would make sense because she's got lots of powers. She-Hulk is, I do wonder if they're going to need She-Hulk to boost up the female side of things as well, to kind of, we've had not having Black Widow. I don't see them necessarily bringing back any dead characters in this. I think if we were to get like Wolverine or anything like that, that might end up coming in maybe in Secret Wars. Shang-Chi definitely kind of feels like they're going to need that. He should be back because he hasn't done anything, so that would be good. And maybe Captain Marvel. I do wonder if she's a little bit overpowered. Now, whether or not they're all in the team, whether that's too big a team. I mean, if you only had to pick 6 members of that team, that suddenly gets a little bit more trickier. But we do know that Doctor Strange is going to be in there filming. Now, whether or not that's the whole movie, I don't know. But that's who I think is going to be in Doomsday as heroes. I'm not expecting Ironheart or any of the kid ones other than maybe Miss Marvel. I don't think Kate Bishop's going to be in there because she's not on this level of... They might want to try and give the rub to some of them. They might have cameos. I wouldn't be surprised. It's like was it Yenna? I can never say her names. I think that would be maybe something they could do. But again, she's so vastly underpowered. I mean, you could say the same about Captain America and Hawkeye, but I just don't. I think they're going to need some bigger characters. Keenan says, I heard rumors that Johnny Depp will be in the Pirates of the Caribbean 6. Didn't the effect of the controversy of the Heard versus Depp case back in a few years ago when Depp quit the project a few years back? Yeah, there's been a lot of online speculation. Obviously, the court case, but the court case was sorted. It was over. He won. Public appeal, the way that people look at it has maybe changed. Throw enough money at him, he might do it. I mean, I know he wasn't happy with how Disney treated him, but I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if they brought him back. I don't think you can do Pirates of the Caribbean without him. Now, if you want to do Pirates of the Caribbean in 20 years without him, you've maybe left it long enough that you can introduce new characters. I think if you're going to try and do a reboot at the minute, I think if they try to do a reboot with Margot Robbie or anything like that, I don't think the audience is going to take it. I think we've kind of reached that point where the audience is kind of saying to to Disney and the studios, they don't want all of these kind of things. They want the normal characters. They want what we've seen before. I kind of feel like Pirates probably should just be left as it is for a bit and let that franchise just maybe bring it back in 15, 20 years, fresh, do it fresh. But if you've left it long enough, maybe by that time it's, a good 20 years, people will be much more forgiving of a reboot. I think if you try and do it now, it's too soon to the original. But I think he'll be back. Keenan says, Niza 2 overtook Inside Out 2 as the #1 animated movie of the world, even though it's not a US film. Thoughts? Okay, I'm going to break that down into 2 bits. First off, it becoming the #1 movie, good for it. If that's really good. I mean, we do have to take into consideration that it is the Chinese box office. That's massive. There is a lot of people in China. There's a lot of cinemas, lots of massive cities. There's a lot more people going to the cinema there now. It's very possible that it is. Unfortunately, there is a little bit of question marks of with the Chinese box office of whether or not things get made up because there's less independence kind of thing in there. But if it has, to me, that's, if the audience in China is absolutely loving it, that's great. That's, more choice is good. Whether or not it breaks out internationally, I don't know. The fact that you then go and say it's not even a US film, and the rest of the world does exist. The rest of the world does make movies. Not everything has to come from America. I know Hollywood is probably one of America's biggest exporters, but there is a big audience out there, and people do like choice. And just because that's all generally we've seen from Hollywood dominating things, people are looking for other forms of entertainment and different kinds of story. It doesn't always mean that just because it's American means that it has to be #1. Hollywood is going to go through some changes. Miles says, and this was kind of interconnected with this one, it says, could this assist other international animation studios, particularly those in Ireland and Europe, such as Cartoon Saloon and Aardman Animations, to gain wider exposure to moviegoers? I think in general, audiences today are much more likely to watch something regardless of where it comes from. A little bit, I think if it's dubbed or subtitled, there's always going to be a less mainstream audience. I think that's kind of how it kicks in. I think the big issue really is how much distribution and how much advertising gets put behind these films. But you definitely could start seeing, bigger movies being, I think China, especially because you got to remember as well, China was kind of in lockdown lot longer than other countries. Also, their population is huge, and why not? I mean, China cinema and stuff. It's if the audience are enjoying it and they're watching their own, it makes total sense. Same thing with with Bollywood films. I think the only reason Bollywood films don't necessarily get into the top 10 movies and stuff is because of the way that the currency works against the US in terms of people watching it. Probably seeing a lot more people actually go see the big Bollywood movies than the Hollywood stuff. But again, it's down to the dollar and stuff. Kelly said, reportedly, ESPN direct-to-consumer is planning to add user-generated content. What does this mean in the grand scheme of things? I think the concept of user-generated content is going to be a little bit risky. Now, whether or not that means that they're going to start looking for partners from like podcasts, that could be a way of doing it. YouTube channels. I mean, like, there's obviously they've had a lot of success with the Pat McAfee show. Maybe they could go grab a load of deals with YouTubers, and there's extra content within ESPN. I mean, I know like the Jackson Jaguars, there's quite a few channels that I watch, and then, it could maybe, some of them could maybe get signed up, or if you've got some other big sports things, they could bring it in. I don't know about necessarily user-generated content, whether or not you could live stream you watching it. Maybe you can, you send in your results and there's an area that's full of fan reactions to the games or something. That could be a way of doing it. If you're watching it within the game, within the app, you might be able to have reactions from people watching it. But because you are within the app and subscribed, that's why, they might be able to get around it. But yeah, I mean, the idea of doing more talking head videos and stuff and incorporating that kind of thing. I don't imagine they're just going to allow us to upload anything. I can't see that coming in, but reaching out a little bit more to non-traditional media, so that not everything has to be made in their studio, and people are making stuff in their living room and in their home studios and stuff. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, but let me know what you think. Babak says, "What did you think of your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man?" I did finish. I wrapped up the entire series a couple of days ago. I ended up watching like most of the series before it come out, and then there was like the last few episodes I kind of held off a little bit. Um, it's a little bit hit and miss with it. I do think they kind of got there in the end. It kind of just felt like one really long episode of What If, because of all the different. I wasn't a big fan of it being so close to the MCU but not being the MCU, and the little twists and the little changes and stuff. I wasn't so keen on that. Felt a little bit like we're just doing changes for change's sake. There's a lot of I was a little bit frustrated. I mean, it was okay. It was probably better than it probably should have been. There's a lot of people that have liked it. Whether or not it builds up steam, I mean, they're still going to do like 2 seasons. It was okay. Yeah, I 7 out of 10. It was okay. It did what it was. I don't think it was amazing. I would never go back and rewatch it. But when season 2 drops, I'll be willing to check it out. At least he's got his proper suit now. I didn't. One of the things I didn't like with this whole thing was, again, and I wasn't so keen on this with the Marvel movies, was it felt like we could have done with having him designing the suit rather than him just being handed all these different, like that red version at the end with his proper Spider-Man suit. It would have been kind of cool if he'd done that himself rather than Harry doing it. Yeah, that was my own little thing on that one. Let's jump into the live chat. Let's see what we've got. Candace says, as much as I want to see Ryan Reynolds back as Deadpool, I got a feeling he's going to be in Secret Wars to serve as a key to giving them hope, since Doomsday is setting up the end of the world. I think a cameo might be possible. I think maybe Wolverine. I don't think the Wolverine from Deadpool and Wolverine is the right one. I just don't know if Deadpool. This is going to be a PG-13, $200+ million movie, and I'm just not sure they're going to be able to reach a younger audience with having Deadpool in there. I think there is a problem that with having it as a family friendly. I mean, as much as my 9-year-old nephew absolutely loves Deadpool, and we had a Deadpool themed party for his birthday, yeah, it's a bit like, yeah, he likes it, but there's a case of we have to monitor what he watches of it. I'm just going to make sure I didn't miss any questions. I think that's all. All right. So Caleb said he went to see Brave New World, which was a solid spy thriller. It wasn't perfect, but no film is. Not even Endgame. Small scale stories matter, but I guess the casuals want supercards like WrestleMania. I definitely feel. I think Captain America is good. I thought it was a fun, easygoing movie, but I think there's a lot of problems with it. It's good. I don't think it's what some people wanted it to be. I think they wanted something much more serious, like another Winter Soldier, and it isn't that. I think the whole thing with Hulk, it felt a little bit like an Incredible Hulk sequel 20 years later, which I didn't mind. I like that aspect to it. There is just that big elephant in the room of, you've got a big portion of the audience that didn't know it was Captain America because they hadn't watched the series, and just him being handed a shield at the end of Endgame didn't signify that was what was going to happen, and they didn't watch the Falcon show. And I also think as well, there is just a big portion of the audience that isn't going to accept Sam as Captain America, and that's not necessarily because of race and the wings and all the different. I think it's just the fact of people want to see Steve Rogers as it's like it's like Thor, Hulk, whatever it is. People want to see that character as it is, and I think it just wasn't going to work. I think there was a bit of an uphill battle for them. Arbitrary says, do you think Disney Plus will add playlists for The Simpsons? I think it might be difficult until they sort out the Fox situation. I mean, I would have thought it would have made sense for them to do so. I'm surprised they've not launched more of it. Maybe they're just holding off for the next price rise. They want to launch it and kind of make out that they're giving something. It does feel to me like Disney Plus is kind of in a holding cruise control mode right now, where we're just waiting for ESPN and Hulu to kind of get bundled in properly, and that's going to be like the I don't know. I just feel like we're in a bit of a lully bit at the minute. Kayla says Captain Marvel and Sam Wilson's Captain America are officially the Avengers in the comics. Yeah, I mean, that would make sense. Thunderbolts and Fantastic Four will definitely be in Doomsday if the Fantastic Four takes place in an alternative universe. I agree with you on Fantastic Four. I don't agree with you in Thunderbolts. Maybe Bucky. I don't see the Thunderbolts being involved in it. I think this is I don't have the feeling. I don't think they're not Avengers. They are the anti-heroes. They are the anti-group. And Thunderbolts was always supposed to be kind of like the Avengers team up for Phase 5. Personally, I've said this, but I think we really needed an Avengers movie at the end of each phase. We needed a story of some kind, bringing all these characters together at the end of Phase 4 and a proper one at end of 5, and actually having that instead of some of the movies that we did get. Keenan says, I remember Disney was trying to develop a female spin-off of the Pirates. Yes, there's been a few ones over the years. Karen Gilligan was connected. Also Margot Robbie. I think right now with the political situation, everything going on, I would probably be, if I was an executive there, going, let's just park that idea. Let's just it's not working. Let's just leave that alone. Babak says, I think if you're going to make a Pirates film with female pirate, do something new or do something different. Just slapping the Pirates of the Caribbean logo on it is not going to work. And I also, I think back to the Pirates of the Caribbean movie. Yes, Jack Sparrow was the big character, but Elizabeth Swann was such a strong female character. She was so good in it that you can have, it's like she was a really great character. Babak says, I feel like the new Spider-Man show is what if should have been a show we know with some changes. See, that's I prefer with a what if that it's complete. I don't mind this kind of thing. I just found it with a whole season of being close enough to the MCU but being different just was a bit messy for me. I wasn't so keen on it. The one and only Tinkerbell says, I love the Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man show much more than X-Men 97. I could get that. I mean, I grew up, X-Men was my introduction into the X-Men. I'd never seen them before then. And we're talking, I was sat there every Saturday morning when new episodes were dropped. I was in the jam. I was 12, 13 when that show came out. I was the target audience for X-Men, the cartoon. So I did appreciate 97 being a continuation of that. So that's why I was probably a little bit more in liking it. So Suna says, do you think they'll make any more Spider-Man movies? Yep, they're going to be filming one here in the UK later this summer, and it's going to be coming out to the end of July next year. So yeah, and there'll be more of that. So there's definitely going to be much more people doing that one. Ricardo says the most likely members to appear in Fantastic Four, Thunderbolts and Sam Wilson. Just now was confirmed Ant-Man will have a minor. Oh, has he? Ant-Man been confirmed? I mean, I completely forgot about him, but actually Ant-Man would make a lot of sense to bring him back as well. I think this is the trouble. We've had so many heroes. We need to bring them back more often. And I think by not having these Avenger movies, we've not really had that chance to see some of these characters return properly. But I think Ant-Man would make sense. But again, they're gonna have to make this team a little bit tighter. So more originals, and you need some of the new guys like Shang-Chi and Miss Marvel, but you also, I think, need some of the core ones. Ricardo says they should never have sold Miramax. I think selling Miramax, there was obviously some problems going on there. By the sounds of it, by what I think Miles has sent me a few things in the past about it, about the fact that it seems like there were some internal struggles between Miramax of they weren't they find out they didn't trust them. There was a lot of some issues there. It does feel a little bit like Touchstone, Miramax was all kind of leading up to what they've done with 20th Century Studios. They know they needed a studio for adults, but they kind of do it and then they kind of chicken out. But at least they're this way. I think there's a bit more strength with what they're doing, but it's not as good as it. I think they could be releasing a lot more movies that from 20th century that aren't franchises, and to me there should be almost like something from Searchlight or 20th Century dropping every single month, one of the two, because they are so different. Ricardo says, have you seen the Bo DeMeo on his crusade call to call out Marvel over the handling of X-Men 97? The more I see it, there are solid concerns about it. Personally, the whole thing going on with that creator, there's smoke and fire. He got fired for a reason. We don't know what that reason is. And I personally, I don't really trust what's going on with that one. I do feel like there's a kind of sometimes with these situations of there's a lot of shouting going on online from one side, and the other side I can't actually say anything. And and also there was problems with him on The Witcher as well. So I don't know. I mean, don't know any of the details. Don't know why happened. But it feels a little bit like they fired him, but we don't know why. And they've not revealed why, and he's just shouting on the social media at them and trying to put all the blame onto them. And you're going to have a certain part of the audience which is anti-Marvel and anti-Disney and will just keep piling on, and that's kind of how it is. Okay, it says, Ricardo, in hindsight, Disney selling Miramax was the right call, knowing about the founders of the company. Yeah, they definitely kind of did that one. Barbatronic says, how do you ignore people who pop up on your feed and it puts you in a mood? This is very, very interesting. I am not this week I was contemplating actually deleting Twitter again. Deleting Twitter off my phone at least, and just using it like when I need to just post some articles and stuff. It is difficult, and also not necessarily always. I mean, you get negative comments through for any of the platforms. Generally Facebook and YouTube, etc. I do have the automatic rules in place to try and divert some of it. I do see some of it. I would say, like for me, I don't feel it as much as I did the first year or two that I was doing What's on Disney Plus. I definitely felt it much harder than I do now. I think I've got a lot more of a thicker skin to it. I mean, I've had like death threat messages and really nasty stuff come through and really nasty things. And over time, I've just kind of learned to kind of ignore it a little bit more. Sometimes, you'd get the odd thing that would come through and you'd be like, and it would annoy you. You get random emails of just random stuff. Honestly, now most of it I just ignore or delete. If it's bad, I might mute you or block you. Depends on what level it is. Usually, I might just mute you so you don't know that I don't see your stuff. I don't have to put up with it. No creator does. Just because you're online doesn't mean you get to say, we are all people at the end of the day. You wouldn't, there's that kind of thing. And then this goes to everybody online, and it's not just, at the end of the day, anyone that's a content creator or anything like that, they are just normal people that are doing something that they love to do, and they put themselves out there, and then they get abuse. And a lot of it, it's like opinions and stuff. You put your opinions out there, and people are going to disagree with you. But I try to let I don't generally try to delete or anything. Like if you say something that I don't agree with, I might not necessarily it might not do anything. I will just leave it as it is. Generally, the biggest thing I have learned is trolls. Of just don't feed them. The worst thing you can do with anyone trying to bait you into a response, I've done it so many times where I have typed out a response and they go, no, what good is it? think about it, wait, think about it a little bit more. Don't give them the satisfaction of doing it. Sometimes sometimes it is a case like I just have to delete it because it's abusive, or it's, there is sometimes you just have to do it. But it is a very tricky situation. And I think now, like 6 years on, I have a way of dealing with it much differently than I did like the first year or two. I think I definitely took it probably a lot more personal in the first year or two. I also tried, I think I regret it now. I tried, like, I used to talk to if someone messaged, I would try and respond more, or I would try and like discuss it, and it never worked. I think I've just realized there's no point in me wasting my time. So yeah, if you there's a difference of you, if it's like here, if someone says something I disagree with, that's different. There's a difference between disagreeing and stuff, but there's definitely, like, if it's an insult, or if it's personal, or if it's racist, sexist, that kind of thing, that's very much difficult, a different thing entirely. If you came in here and you go, right, I think Deadpool and the Guardians of the Galaxy and Batman are going to be the Avengers, that's fine. You can say what you like, that's fine. But the thing is, with free speech has consequences, and I don't have to respond to stuff, and that's it. And that goes on all socials. And I think, yeah, I mean, I do get random emails daily from stuff. Sometimes people, it's just like, it is really nasty. And sometimes, usually a lot more when like bigger movies come out, or think a lot more controversial stuff. It has eased off, I'll be honest. When Disney was kind of at its peak back about 2 years ago, with like, it felt like they were stepping on every rake possible. It was a lot worse because it was activating stuff. Disney's kind of calmed down a little bit, and it's kind of helped the audience calm down a little bit. So that's been a good thing. And also as well, just not getting in on it. Not, it's like, news and political stuff. Like, what's the point of, like, I don't know. I've definitely got into that zone now of like, I've got other stuff I could be doing. So it sounds awful. Keen says, would you kick people off a membership if they said something bad? Yeah. I mean, I think that's the definition of saying something bad. If you say something that I disagree with, that's not a problem. If you came on here and you started like trash talking, swearing, and insulting other people, or insulting me, then yeah, you might get put in a timeout for a little bit first, but yeah, we're not gonna put up with it. We don't need to. And that's just, that's a social contract. That's, you start doing that, there is going to be repercussions. Knoxwave said, social media can be a pain when someone insults. Yeah, it is. And you have got to have a bit of a tough skin with it. You have got to let stuff slide. But also, you don't have to put up with it. It's like, if you do something on Twitter like that, then you got one shot because you're going to be muted, and I won't see it again. So that's kind of same thing. Like, if you're in our Facebook group and you start insulting people, and people are getting upset, then because I mean, my Facebook group has like 200 plus million. Well, not 200 plus million. That would be nice. 200,000 people in. There has been issues. Whereas we dealt with it very differently 5 years ago to how we deal with it now. And now that's very much like, no, we're not messing about. But no, it's bloody awful. It's absolutely awful. Ricardo says, I just saw that Disney Plus Canada has added Tarantino's Blue Bill movies as distributed by Lionsgate. Funny that Disney used to have the rights to the movies when they were under Miramax. It looks like Disney has started doing a lot of licensing for Disney Plus internationally. Like you say, we started seeing some Miramax films. We've been seeing some Warner Brothers TV shows. I wonder if they're going to start kind of doing what they do with Hulu a little bit more in some of their other countries, of filling it up with big hits and big movies to refresh the library a little bit, put in some movies to kind of, they'll have the data from Hulu on Disney Plus that shows, maybe, if we add in like Sonic the Hedgehog and, Paddington and, I don't know, Kill Bill or whatever it is, that there's a nice boost of viewership. People watch it, and then we take it off after a few months. And I think we're going to start seeing more of that myself. Keenan says Touchstone Pictures was founded in the 80s when they were focused on more live action movies than animated movies because they had animated afternoon shows. That was before Miramax was founded. Also, as well, it was the Touchstone was much in the 80s. Disney was very much more siloed. Touchstone was completely separate from Disney. The audience didn't really have any clue that would have been it. The only reason I knew was at the end of the movie when you'd get Buena Vista distribution would be at the end, and I think I don't know if it was the castle, but I'd been to Florida in the 80s, in the late 80s, and knew it was called Buena Vista. So but you got to this in the 80s. We didn't have the internet. There was no way of we didn't know this information the way they do now. I know it's kind of hard to imagine, but at that time we didn't know this information, and you had no way of fact checking. You had no way of finding out. Literally, all we would have had was the back of a video, a VHS tape, and the credits. That was all the information we would have had. We wouldn't have known anything else. Thank you, Derek, for your super chat. Thank you so much for your continued support. That is amazing. Thank you. When the next 2 Avengers films come out, what role do you think Doom will play bringing in Galactus? Marvel said about bringing in 2 villains. I think Galactus will be held just in the Fantastic Four film. I don't think he's going to be in the other one. I wouldn't be surprised if it was maybe Scarlet Witch, or maybe he brings back in somebody else, Killmonger, or I think we're going to see maybe some of the villains from the past come back as well. Because if you can bring back some of the heroes, bring back some of the villains and reboot them as well. I think Galactus is too much of he's him and Doom together. That doesn't really. I don't think that's going to work, as they're kind of too big. We're too big, if that makes sense. But again, thank you so much for that super chat. That is fantastic. Yeah, I'm not sure Galactus will be in Doomsday. The one and only Tinkerbell says, I always knew that Miramax belonged to Disney, but I was a Disney fan and read every news report about them in movie magazines, and it was published. Yeah, I think that. I mean, I used to buy used to watch film with Graham. I can't think of what it was now. Barry Norman and stuff. I don't remember buying. I remember buying Total Film and stuff when I was like a teenager. Mara says, "What are your thoughts on what's her name? Daria becoming appointed as the new president of Disney Live Action Theatrical? I think it's good to have someone fresh. She's obviously done a lot of good work over at Paramount on like Gladiator, Sonic. I think we're going into like a new era for Disney movies. I think we're seeing, they're bringing in new creatives at the top, and I think that's what they need. I think Disney Live Action has got too focused on the live action remakes, and they got a little bit lazy with it. I think they started pulling back. I think they need to take a little bit more risks, but also make smaller movies for families and Disney Plus kind of thing. But you put them out in cinemas and then put them on Disney Plus. But they should kind of put out a little bit more selection, a little bit more. You can put out maybe a cheaper movie. We've got things like Freakier Friday, and you've got, I don't know, it's like this new Alexander and the Horrible Road Trip kind of thing. Of like, they could have put that out in cinemas for 2 months, not put a huge amount of advertising in it. If it pulled in 50, 100 million, if it was really popular, it'd put in a bit more. But if it didn't, you then whack it onto Disney Plus, and maybe it's pulled back its budget. I think we need smaller, more regular movies coming from both 20th Century and Disney. Kelly says, what are your thoughts on Paradise getting a second season renewal? Love it. Absolutely loving Paradise, watching a new episode each and every week that it drops. Loving the show, loving the fact that it's coming back. Best show I've seen in a while. Loving Paradise. If you haven't seen it, do check that one out. Absolutely love the fact that it's coming back. I did wonder if it was going to be a limited series, but obviously the viewership has been really good. Matt says, what would you change on the homepage of Disney Plus? I would have the big thing for me would be an algorithm on there to personalize it more, to make that homepage different between different people. If you've seen something, don't put it on, and you don't. So say if I watch a movie and I never go back and, if the algorithm works out that I don't go back and watch a movie again, why keep showing it to me? Or if I have watched a series and I never go back and watch another series again, why keep throwing it on the front page? You could be showing me something new that I've not seen, and that would make more sense. Mixing things up. If they see, for example, that I never watched Disney Junior shows, don't keep feeding me up Bluey and all these kid shows. There's one thing having them on like the what's new kind of thing and in the trending whatever's popular, but make it a bit more personal. That's what I think it needs to do stuff. Mario says, with the 1 week delay of Pixar's Elio from June 13th to June 20th, do you think the move could help with Disney securing more IMAX films? I think moving away from the How I Can Train Your Dragon remake makes sense, because that was probably going to devastate the box office for that opening weekend. It's going to have legs over the whole summer anyway, so it'll creep up. But I don't think they wanted to have that head-to-head battle where Elio was going to lose, because let's be honest, How I Trained Your Dragon already is an established franchise. Elio is brand new. Yeah, I think they made the right call in moving it. Kelly says, do you think the ESPN opting out of Sunday Night Baseball deal with the MLB is a setback for their DTC plans? Not going to lie, never seen baseball in my life. I used to hate playing rounders as a kid. Paying $500+ million a year for baseball, to me, all right, that's a lot of money. And by the looks of it, Disney was like, you know what? This isn't really good for us. I think I've seen a lot of people, that's baseball fans, complaining that the ESPN coverage wasn't up to standard and wasn't as good as it used to be, and they barely showed games. Now, I do have to wonder, is that because no one was watching it and therefore they decided to deprioritize it? Other deals are a lot cheaper. I still think they're going to come up with something, some kind of package to get some games. I know MLB are like looking for partners and stuff, and they might not want to necessarily be seen to be going back, but I think sports are going to be going through a major change of, where they're going, what they're doing. I don't know. I personally, Disney must have dropped the, ESPN has dropped the MLB because they feel they're overpaying for it and it's not delivering. That's the bottom line, really. ESPN are the buyers. They are the ones paying for this rights, and they are saying it is not, we need to pay less because it's not pulling in enough audience. Now, MLB is saying, well, there's less people watching ESPN and therefore it's their fault and it's not as popular as it used to be. Maybe. Go to Netflix, go to Amazon, see what you can do. But all these sports companies, we're going to go for a boom where they're going to get a load of money, and then slowly all of these different streamers are going to be like, yeah, we're not paying this much for sports because it's not pulling in. I don't know. Feels a bit weird with that one. Mario says, what are your opinions on the first 2 episodes of Win or Lose? I'll be honest, haven't watched it yet. I did watch a couple of minutes. My wife, I put it on. My wife said, what is this? And I said, it's a new Pixar series about baseball. And she said, turn this rubbish off. I don't want to watch it. So that was as far as we got, which kind of leads into the MLB situation of baseball is not a big sport internationally, but it is a US focused game. So I was going to watch it. I ended up, we just, well, to be honest, today we binged like half of the 3rd season of From. We kind of finished off Celebrity Bear Hunt this week. Yeah, I'm going to watch it at some point, but Win or Lose has just never appealed to me. I think if it was a movie, I'd probably be a little bit more inclined to do it. But a 4 hour, 4 hours or whatever it is of baseball storylines, I'm just not it. It's just there's nothing hooking me in. I'm just not it. It's just the whole concept has just not grabbed my attention. It's just, I don't know. It's like Dream Productions. I watched the day it came out and I wanted to watch it because I liked Inside Out. But Win or Lose just didn't have that hook. It's like I almost feel like I need to watch it because it's Pixar and but I was like, Okay, it's like I just didn't really think. Let me know, what have you? Have anyone watched Win or Lose? Is it good? Is it not? Should I skip it? Should I watch it? Let me know. So Miles says, I watched the first 2 episodes on Wednesday and found them to be entertaining and enjoyable from beginning to end. I'm keenly awaiting the rest of the release. Good, glad you liked it. Barbara Charlie says, do you think Disney will acquire the 50% of A&E? Probably not. I think there would be probably antitrust situations. The fact that they had to sell A&E internationally to get the deal of Fox anyway. I don't know. I don't think. Do they need it? Do they need? It's like, what benefit is it? They can make most of those cheap shows probably themselves. They don't. I don't think they need to. And Matt says, what do you think the Phase 7 will be called? I think it's going to be. I think it might be Mutants or something. I don't know. I'm not too sure. Okay, let's see what we've got here in the live chat. So we'll carry on answering questions. Kelly says, speaking of Disney Junior, I saw a section of the mall that was themed on Disney Junior for young kids' friends when I went to see Brave New World. Yeah, I think some of the supermarkets have kind of, in stores and stuff, they do like have Disney Junior sections, especially with Disney stores closing. I think Target and stuff have them in the US, so that makes sense. So Suna says, when will the Hulu standalone app go away? I don't know. If I was to have a guess, maybe next year, after I think first off, they've got to finalize the deal with Comcast. They've then got to merge the two together, but also they might need to keep the Hulu app running until they finalize the situation with Fubo. But obviously that's going to go through legislation, and one of the senators has got a problem with it. Though the comment about the fact that she thought that Disney buying Fubo means that Fubo couldn't become the next Netflix, and it's like at that point you're going, Fubo is never going to become the next Netflix. Fubo is literally just cable stragglers that haven't cut the cord yet, but do want to cut the cord a little bit. Fubo's never going to be the size of Netflix. It's just a slowing. There's going to be less and less people subscribing. It's a dying. There's no growth in that industry. So it was a bit odd, that one. And I'm going to say as well, it's kind of got some other things I think in the US that she needs to be dealing with than Disney's purchase of Fubo. Keenan says, do you not like watching sports? I'm not. I wouldn't say I'm a huge lover of sports. I'm definitely not in the sports category. I will say I am a huge pro wrestling fan. I know some people might say that's not a sport, it's sports entertainment. I watch Raw, SmackDown, NXT. I watch the premium now. So I watch 4 to 5 plus hours of wrestling a week. And I keep up with wrestling news constantly every day. I watch a little bit of AEW as well. I'm a huge wrestling fan. I've traveled to Canada and America to watch WrestleManias. I've been to see WWE live, I don't know, 30, 40 times in my life. Love it. Absolutely love it. Sports is a little bit boring for me, to be honest. I do try and watch a little bit of the NFL. I find with the NFL that I have to watch the 40 and 40 minute highlights, because watching a whole game is totally boring, because there's just too many stops. I've never liked soccer. I don't really like rugby. The Olympics, I could give or take. So I am not a sports fan. I don't mind sports documentaries for some reason. I'm the ESPN documentary side of things I do quite like. But yeah, I'm definitely not what I would call a sport. The only time I've ever had to subscribe to sports networks is because of WWE, and now I get it with Netflix, and it's lovely. Even my wife said to me, "You don't have WWE?" I said, "No, I don't need it. I've got Netflix." Derek, thank you so much for your super chat. Thank you so much. Derek says, what mutants do you think will be in the next Avengers film? I don't think we're going to get any mutants in the next 2, in Secret Wars or Doomsday. Maybe Wolverine. We had that whole thing with the universes colliding in the Marvels where we obviously saw Beast. Maybe they might introduce a couple that way. That might be something that they could do. I don't know. I think they're going to hold off on the X-Men until after Secret Wars, get the multiverse saga done, and then I think they have to be careful with the X-Men of not introducing too many characters. I think they're going to have to be a bit tighter on it. I think, like Wolverine, Storm, Cyclops, Rogue, Beast, maybe Gambit. Those are the kind of the main ones. I think if they bring too many in, it's going to overflood it, and we're going to have the same problem that we've got right now with like Avengers and Young Avengers, and there's just too many characters. So I think they've got to have to be a little bit careful of not overdoing it, and also maybe keeping the X-Men together a little bit more, so that they kind of doing their own separate thing away from maybe the X-Men. I don't know if they should have a series, but I think maybe we have an X-Men movie a year and an Avengers movie kind of a year, and like those are the kind of things. Speaking of WWE, ESPN YouTube channel covered the announcement of The Rock mentioning WrestleMania 42 in New Orleans, as well as saying he wants Cody. So what's up with that? It was a bit weird. I'm not sure of this whole heel final boss Rock thing. I know what he's doing, but when he came out and did that whole thing, like the first quarter he was like babyface Rock, and then he went into heel Rock, and then he was talking in the press conference of like they doesn't necessarily going to have a match. It's like, if you don't want to have a match, just get out, get off, stop taking up 20-30 minutes of SmackDown, get out. If you don't want to have a match, leave the time for somebody else. You've come, it's like, I know he's a chairman of the board and all the rest of it, but it's a little bit like, if you're not going to wrestle, give the time to somebody else. We don't need we don't need The Rock right now. See you later, Bubba Charlie. Thank you very much. Kelly said, I still believe the A&E networks remain the status quo, but they will likely do next day right still for Hulu. Probably. Yeah. The one and only Tinkerbell said, I think the extreme competitive is also very American. It is. That is. It doesn't appeal to me either, but I am planning on watching it. It is a very American, that there's a lot more competition. There's a lot more competitive elements in it. It's funny, I was watching a video about Warhammer yesterday, because I play Warhammer, and the thing of like the competitive scene in that of it's very US. The US side is really pushing that forward. I've got lots of friends that play, and they want to play like narrative, like fluffy lists, and it's like it seems to be exactly opposite of what Warhammer is. Same thing like with Lorcana and Magic the Gathering. There's a definite, and esports, there is definitely like a competitive sports element that I don't think we, especially as British, we do have it a little bit, but it's not there the same way. We aren't, when I was a kid, it wasn't, you had some kids obviously were in the sports thing, but we weren't competitive in that way. Bubba Charlie says, I read that Warner Brothers Discovery retained the World Trade Network and streaming rights, I believe. Yeah, I think that's motorsports, isn't it? Something like that. I'm just going to go up here. Knoxo said, I thought baseball was a boring game thanks to an episode of South Park that made me not liking baseball. Well, yeah. I mean, I think if South Park highlights it to you, that's a good thing. I do remember watching a movie. Was it it wasn't basketball. They did a Trey and the guys that created South Park did a basketball or something like that. That was a movie that they did. It was awful. Kelly said, I do think that both the MLB and ESPN did make the mistake when they initially made a deal to have it cable only, since Sunday night games wasn't simulcast on ABC and ESPN Plus for selected games. I think the whole industry's changed so much, and maybe as well Disney we want to have rights for streaming, and ESPN and MLB are going, oh, you can pay us more for that, and Disney are like, no, we want streaming rights as well, as we're paying you enough. And they're like, that maybe that was part of it. Maybe MLB wanted more money for streaming, and ESPN was like, no. And if we've only got it on cable, there's no point in us having it. Maybe that's the risk for it. The NBA, NFL, and NHL make sure due diligence was done that games were simulcast on ESPN Plus while games air on ABC and ESPN. I think they need to. You need to be able to have those games that be able to be accessed by everyone. And I think you've definitely seen with the NFL, they know that they need to try and reach a bigger audience, because the bigger audience, more advertising, more people watching the game, more people buying merchandise, makes the game bigger. You pull in, I think I would say maybe like the soccer in America right now, because it's all gone on to Apple TV, that what happens there is the audience can't grow because it's closed off from the rest of, and this is where I think like the WWE is now going to move into this next zone of being on Netflix means that they are able to grow out to such a bigger audience and get a bigger fan base, more casual fan base, because you can get it much bigger. Obviously, some people still like it on traditional television, but most people are Netflix. Chuck says, who do you think is going to win the box office for July? Jurassic World, Rebirth, Superman, or Fantastic Four? Never discount dinosaurs. Jurassic World has always been a big hit. I think it will do. I do think with Jurassic World, it will be able to compete differently to the Marvel and DC ones because it's not superheroes. I think Jurassic World will do nicely. I wouldn't be surprised if it does $1 billion. I'm going to watch it. I like watching dinosaurs. That's good enough for me. I think Superman, there's an interest in it. The fact that it's a reboot of the DC. I think people are going to be interested. I think it depends how well it is and what it's like. I am a lover of Superman. I've always loved Superman. I'm going to go see it. I don't think Superman is going to do $1 billion. I don't think it will do. I think it's going to struggle to hit that. I don't think Fantastic Four is going to do $1 billion. I mean, I hope it does. But I think these movies, if they can hit 600-700, that's probably going to be the top end. They could be wrong, but I think the audience right now is a little burnt out, and I think their trust needs to be brought back. Fantastic Four is at least slightly fresh, but they've been done multiple times. Superman, we've seen lots of Superman movies. Is this going to be any different? It's going to have to be really good. I mean, it is the reboot of the DCU, but what I've seen so far for the DCU, I'm not impressed with what I've seen so far, but I don't know. Kelly says, outlets like Cool Cut News has said it's not impossible for the MLB and ESPN to make a smaller scale deal for games exclusively on Disney+. I think they're going to do a deal. I think they'll do a deal. Yeah, Fubo isn't going to be Netflix at all, but rather an alternative to YouTube TV instead. That's the thing. There's lots of different competitors. The other thing as well, which is so funny with this whole idea, and it kind of shows where the senator is completely out of touch with what's going on outside of the US, which seems to be generally a problem in general, of this stuff doesn't Sling, YouTube, TV, etc. In most countries, we don't have this stuff. Fubo can't become a global platform to be on Netflix level because those people don't watch, we don't have the same systems globally. It's an entirely different system. It's just cable TV through the internet. That's all Fubo is. So all you're getting is people that are cutting the cord and want to have access to these channels through that. And once the sports start going all on streaming, people are going to be like, well, we don't need this anymore. That's why they're doing all these sports bundles, because, once Disney takes all their stuff, if you've got to a point where you can watch all the NFL and all the sports you want on different platforms you don't need it. Keenan says, honestly, I'm impressed with the news this week. It was a lot better than last week. A bit of a weird one, really. A bit of a weird with all the news. You never know what's going to be. You never know what tomorrow's going to bring. Knoxwell says, which Disney video games would you like to see adapted as a movie or a TV series? Kingdom Hearts. Kingdom Hearts doesn't even have to be a second thought for me, as Kingdom Hearts definitely would be one that I think would be perfect for an animated series. It's just got the history. You've got the there. I will say not necessarily a video game, but maybe like a Disney Lorcana. Do something there that could be quite kind of interested. Build up the lore kind of that. Other video games, I don't think like the Speed Racer one. I can't remember what that one's called. I think that'll be difficult to do. Most of the Disney video games are all based on franchises, so there's not really anything new. I mean, like Dream Valley thing, whatever that game is, I don't know. Most of them are just incorporating lots of different characters. So for me, Kingdom Hearts would be the one. Kingdom Hearts mobile game should have been adapted as a series for Disney Plus. Doesn't have to be 3D since they can do 2D animation. I think why they just struggled with that. I don't know why they got that. Mirrorverse. Thank you very much. Yes, so not so. So you say Mirrorverse. I do remember playing that game when it came out, and there were some amazing action figures that got released by the people that make Spawn, and it has got a different vibe to it. I did play it because it's a fighting game, but I don't. The only mobile game I have on my phone is Magic Arena. I kind of got rid of everything. I definitely did get a little bit with Disney mobile games where so many of them were getting cancelled. Because I used to, before doing What's on Disney Plus, I used to do a channel, Dis Kingdom, where I used to do video games and mobile stuff. So I used to cover all the mobile and video game stuff for years for Disney. And so I used to play everything that came out. But the mobile stuff, it felt like nearly every video game they cancelled. Right. On that note, we just hit an hour. So a big thank you to everyone. I'll just put a last call out for questions before we wrap it up. So again, a big thank you to Matt, Khaled, Keenan, Bubba Trolling, Noxwave, Sosuna, Noxwave, Babak, Chuck. Thank you so much for joining this week. The one named Tinkerbell, Ricardo. Also, a huge thank you to Tough Luck and Derek for your super chats. That is amazing. Thank you so much for support. It really does mean a huge amount for that one there. So again, thank you so much. I'll be back next week with another live Q&A. And on that note, guys, thank you very much. See you guys soon. Later. Tally ho. Toodaloo.